I wanted to be at Texas State. I chose to be at Texas State. I'm from Texas. That was important to me. I always knew if the right guy got this job, you better watch out.
You better watch out. This is Win Now or Get Bent, episode 146. If you don't already know, I'm Kev Chardello, coming to you on Wednesday, November 29th. And the Bobcats have a winning record. Your 2023 Texas State Bobcats will finish the season with a winning record. Still a bowl game left to play, but that seventh win, 7-5, even if they lose it, finish the season with a winning record for the first time since 2014. Long time coming. A lot of us have been through it all the whole time since 2014, and it feels good. Can't wait to see where the bowl game is. It's nice for them to end the season on that note instead of the previous two games, especially letting 77 go against Arkansas State. We can forget about that. Nice 52-36 win to end the season over South Alabama. Great job by the Bobcats. Can't wait to talk about that. Can't wait to talk about this regular season. Can't wait to talk about the prospects of the bowl games, recruiting, everything that's going in the offseason. It's nice to go into an offseason with positive thoughts. When there's questions about the coaching situation, is someone going to poach them? What's going to happen? Those are when it's positive things surrounding this place. It's way more palatable when the regular season ends. You know, it's not as depressing. It's not as like, oh man, gotta wait, 9 months until we can regain some more hope until fall camp. Not this time. Feels good. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about these Bobcats. Lots to talk about there. But before we get to that, this episode is sponsored by TGC, the Galindo Collective. TGC LLC at thegalindocollective.com. That's GALINDO, galindocollective.com. A team of professional consultants dedicated to helping others realize their business potential through people, planning, and practice. Their services cover a wide range of areas such as business strategy, marketing, human resources, and financial planning. If you own property or a business and want to maximize its profitability, contact TGC at thegalindocollective.com and follow their social media platforms on Twitter at TGC_LLC and on Instagram and Facebook at the Galindo Collective. Shout out to my guy Rick Galindo, a true Texas State sicko, a Texas State grad. He's been with us throughout the whole season, before the season. He's going to be with us through the postseason as well. So shout out to the Galindo Collective. Hit them up for all your needs at thegalindocollective.com. We are also sponsored by Balcones Roofing and Remodeling, the most experienced F-Wave roofing contractor in Central Texas. F-Wave is a highly impact-resistant, lifetime shingle with stunning designer curb appeal. It is the only roofing product on the market with an exclusive hail warranty. We all know in Central Texas, got to have that hail warranty. Or you got to have that F-Wave with its hail warranty. You got to be protected when it comes to those hailstorms because they will come often. Shout out to new sicko Carl Larson. He's a converted Gamecock. I know he was hoping South Carolina would be bowl eligible. That's okay. His Bobcats are. Good season for Carl to jump in with Texas State. You can reach them at balconesroofsaustin.com. That's BALCONES, balconesroofsaustin.com. You can call them at 512-937-8805. It's 512-937-8805. And follow them on X, Twitter, at Balcones Roofing. Our next sponsor, you know who this is, former Texas State offensive lineman Thaddeus Watkins. He's your San Marcos Edward Jones financial advisor. I know, you know what? He actually started it out. We're gonna do his with a question. He had a question for the pod, so we're gonna do it during his ad read because it's a good question. I can answer it real fast. In fact, I think somebody answered it right below it. Mailbag question. The crowds were great this year, and the students really showed up. Average home crowd a little over 2,100 a game. When's the last time Texas State football went 5-1 at home? And shout out to my guy Eric Lugo, Texas State grad himself. He works for the Luling newspaper. He replied, best since the 2005 team went 6-0 in the regular season, 8-1 including the FCS playoffs en route to a national semifinal appearance. So there you go. Best home record for the Texas State Bobcats since 2005. That's a question for Thad. Thanks for asking that one, Thad. Let's do his ad read real fast. Does your financial advisor take the time to really listen to you? Is your financial strategy personalized to you and your family? Will your financial advisor be there as your life and financial situation change? When you work with Thaddeus Watkins, your San Marcos Edward Jones financial advisor, he focuses on what's important to you. You'll work together to use an established process to create a personalized financial strategy backed by the advice, tools, and resources to help you reach your goals. Contact Thaddeus Watkins at 737-373-8200. That's 737-373-8200 and at edwardjones.com/Thaddeus-Watkins and on Twitter, X at Big Thad, BIGGTHADD_. Who better to protect your finances than a former Texas State offensive lineman? Hit up my guy Thad Watkins. Shout out to Thad, man. It's been good seeing him around this season. And we've got one more sponsor, Austin Patchmaster. We know them, one of our earliest sponsors, austin.patchmaster.com. Is your ceiling or wall cracked? Need that popcorn ceiling removed? Did you punch a hole in your wall celebrating the Bobcats having a winning record for the first time in 9 years? Weird way to celebrate, but no judgment from my guy Michael Clements. He's a true Texas State sicko, a Texas State grad, and his company is servicing the greater Austin area, including San Marcos. They can even hit you with referrals if you're in Dallas or Houston. So hit them up at austin.patchmaster.com, and you can call them at 512-200-3888. It's 512-200-3888. And we'll give a quick shout to my guy Dennis Redding over at Chilsea. I've only got 2 of these left because I gave them all out. I've got one for you, my guy Leal. I've been saving one for you. Check out these koozies. You can get custom koozies, custom tumblers like this one right here. See, it has the Win Now or Get Bent logo. You can put any logo you want on there if it was some sort of work retreat, some sort of family gathering, whatever you have, some sort of a fantasy football draft. You can get these personalized and on koozies, tumblers, whatever you're looking for. If you buy 6 or more of those tumblers, of these custom tumblers, this one right here, if you're watching on the YouTube channel, see me holding it up. If you get 6 or more of those, you type in Bobcats when you check out, $15 a piece. Pretty good deal for that one right there. So check them out. Chilzey.com, CHILLZEY.com. All right, merch site. Check it out, WNOGB.com. Boom, there's the shirt. I'm doing a quick one for that because that's 7.5 minutes of ad reads. It's too much. Let's get to these Bobcats. Lots to talk about. We're middle of the week for this episode. That was the final regular season game for the Bobcats. We have some time. We're going to find out the bowl game on December 3rd. The portal opens up on December 4th. Slow play it a little bit. We're about to get cooking right again. As the off season is not off over here at Win Now or Get Bent. Gosh, there's a fly flying around. If you see it on the YouTube, shout out to you. Try and smack it for me. I'm a little too busy. But let's start with volleyball. Let's get to them real fast. They're going dancing. They made the tournament. The ticket is punched. They're taking on SMU in Austin on Thursday at 4 p.m. Shout out to the Bobcats. Didn't win the Sun Belt. Still going dancing. Still played well enough to get in there. It's great playing right up the street in Austin as well. Basketball update for men and women. Let's do women. They're on a 2-game losing streak after starting 3-0. But they have UTSA on Thursday night. Always nice to beat a rival. We saw the men team beat UTSA not just the other night, so it would be nice for women's team to get that as well. Men's team, they're coming off a win. They just beat UTA, which is nice. It's twice over the University of Texas system schools. As I mentioned earlier, they beat UTSA, and then they beat UTA, but then they have the real University of Texas system team coming up on Thursday night. They are playing number 18 Texas, so that's going to be a tough one. The men's team, they're 3-4 right now. Still down a lot of players. I guess it's been a minute since I did a pod. It's been over a week, but I did find out a little bit of an update there where no player is going to be out for the season except potentially Colton Benson. Now, if you don't know who Colton Benson is, he's a local transfer. He was at Army West Point. He played locally at high school ball at Bowie, Austin Bowie in South Austin. His head coach there was a former Texas State player, so there's a bit of connection. Terrific three-point shooter, was going to come in, and it seemed like he was going to increase their percentages there. The transfer rules, I guess it's different with the academies, with the Naval Academy, at Army West Point, the Air Force Academy. It's a different deal when they transfer, where there's different rules. I guess I didn't realize this until I found out Colton Benson. There were some holdups. It's like, well, there's not supposed to be holdups anymore. I guess it's different for the service academy. So that's the situation there. They're still trying to fight it, but not likely. It seems like he's going to have to sit the whole season. Everybody else should be back by the time they start conference. That's what I've heard. It's Tyrell Morgan. He went down the second game of the year, much needed man in the paint. The other 3 injuries are guys, they were injured in the offseason over summer, and they're lingering injuries since then. It's Drew Drennan. Seen him start a lot at point guard, or guard, I should say. Not necessarily start. He'd play next to Mason Harrell, heavily in the rotation, we'll say. I consider him a starter, though. Davian Sykes, young guy, saw him come along as a freshman last season, and then Jordan Mason. Those 3 guys are still coming along, and they're much needed at that guard position for sure. Obviously, you need Tyrell Morgan in the paint, but we've seen Brandon Love doing some really good things. He's leading the nation in overall blocks, not necessarily per game, but 23 overall blocks. It's the most in the nation right now. Christian Turner's another new guy they've had in there looking good. Josh O'Garro's been looking really good for them at guard. He's not but they still need some other guard play, because that's the one thing is it's hard to put your finger on this team when they're missing nearly half the squad. 8 is not enough for a rotation in a basketball game. I mean, when you start 5, you need a deeper bench than that for sure. So when those guys get back, it seems like they're going to be a pretty solid team, though, after losing Mason Harrell and Nate Martin in the transfer portal. They lost some key guys, but they're picking up. 3-4 is not bad. When you're in all 7 of those games, fielding only 8 guys, coming out with 3 wins, not too bad. Some of those losses weren't great. They lost to McNeese and Southern Utah before they beat UTA. You'd like to see them beat some teams like that, but McNeese is apparently pretty good. I think we all know the Wizard, our great producer Zachary Webb here. He's a McNeese undergrad. He did his graduate school at Texas State. That's how we got him here. But before that, he was in the band at McNeese, and he says they can hoop. He says we should have seen it coming. The Pokes, man. Who would have thought? Who'd have thought? But let's get to football. Let's jump into it. 7 wins. Feels great. I meant to pull up a box score. There we go. I did. Yeah, I did have one. Okay, good. Yeah, 7 wins for Texas State. First time since 2014, as I was saying. So many offensive notes about this team, and I'll get to that. We'll talk about this game a little bit. They jumped out to a 24-0 lead to start. Now, we've seen them get these fast starts before. We hadn't seen a fast start like we did on Saturday, and it felt different immediately. Like when they got the ball first, because South Alabama, they won the toss. They deferred. Texas State gets the ball first. And usually we saw, what was it, 6-7 games in a row? I already kind of forgot. When you get 77 hung on, you tend to forget how the opening drives had looked recently. But they didn't score on the opening drive this time. Gave the ball back to South Alabama, and South Alabama's second play, fumble, stripped by Chris Mills, scooped by Caleb Culp, 30 yards, touchdown, defensive touchdown, first defensive touchdown of the season for this team. And I could right then I would have bet $10,000 the Bobcats would have won. Soon when he ran it back right there, I was like, okay, I've been waiting for the defense to, not that they've had some really bad moments. They haven't had a bad season, but I've been waiting for them to give one back for the offense, get some points on the board for the offense, and they hadn't. And he ran that back, and I was like, okay, it's on. Because then pretty shortly after that, I think it was a 3-and-out for South Alabama. I can't specifically remember way back in the first quarter. But the Bobcats get the ball back, 48-yard touchdown to Ashton Hawkins. Hawkins, who really came to life the last 2 games. No Joey Hobart this last game. But what was it, 200 and I had to have made a note, right? 296 yards the last 2 games for Ashton Hawkins. It was somewhat of a slow season, I guess, after he led the team in receiving, even after only playing 9 games last year, still finished the season as the team leader in receiving yards and touchdowns in all of those categories. And with a new system, new players at receiver, Joey Hobart taking a lot of the bulk, his numbers weren't as at least the first half of the season, they weren't as high as a lot of us anticipated. And he finished so strong the back half of the season, specifically these last 2 games. But yeah, 24-0. They jumped out. Jeter got another touchdown, a field goal by Shipley. They led from the jump. They let him get back into it. They let him score 17 unanswered between the second and the third quarter. And that's where things got a little bit of dicey. They seemed to not be able to stop that DJ Thomas Jones, that big old tight end they had. I think he had 3 touchdowns in the game. But they never let him overtake the lead, overtake the game. Anytime they got it close, they got it within a score. It was 31-24, and then Denario Davenport with that slant route. I really liked that play. That was interesting because we've seen Denario Davenport catch a touchdown pass before. You got to go all the way back to the Baylor game when it was a terrific catch too. It was a 50-50 ball. It was surprising just because he's a running back. You don't expect that play. But then this one they had him kind of lined up in the slot, and he ran a quick slant route. And TJ Finley, he gets that ball out quick, got it there in half a second, and touchdown, pay dirt. But he's got hands. Denario Davenport, something to remember. It's a guy who will be back, and we'll be talking about that. They're going to be returning basically this entire offense. At least it's what we think. Transfer portal. We all know this day and age of football, how it looks. But for now, it's looking like that's going to happen. But then after that one, because that Davenport touchdown, that was in the third quarter, towards the end of the third quarter. At the beginning of the fourth quarter, South Alabama, they put together another quick drive, and Colin Lacey got in there and scored. And that set up one of 2. It's crazy because maybe it's recency bias. I don't think it is, though, but it was 2 of what I think were the best plays of this season. The first one is the 24-yard touchdown to Cole Wilson. That beautiful pass. It wasn't the deepest pass we ever saw from TJ Finley. It wasn't the highest degree of difficulty. It was just the placement of it, the accuracy of that ball, because it was just a 24-yard route. Cole Wilson had a defender draped all over him. He barely had to lift his hands, and it just dropped right there, right where the defender couldn't touch it, but right where Cole Wilson could grab it. It was such a terrific placement on the ball. And that's been, if I've had some criticisms of TJ Finley this season, it's forcing the ball sometimes. We saw that against Arkansas State with some of those pick sixes. Sometimes he's got a terrific arm, but sometimes he thinks it's way better than it is, and he'll try and force something. And then there were times where he'd overthrow guys, and he just didn't have that touch. You just wouldn't see it on every single throw. And when I've knocked that before earlier in the season, I've said that a lot of that is this guy got here in July, familiarity with these receivers. It's just not there. He didn't have a full off season to get that chemistry down, get that timing down. Game number 12 with Cole Wilson, that was like his 61st catch on the season, that their timing's down pretty well. And that timing was perfect. That was perfect. It was a terrific throw. It was as close to a perfect throw as he's had this season. He's had some really great throws. That one might be, in my opinion, his best. His best. I'd have to probably go through and look at some of those other ones that are really terrific. But just the pinpoint accuracy, that 24-yard touchdown to Cole Wilson was incredible. He just shows when I was really high on him in the first half of the season, talking about this is a draftable quarterback. We saw the flaws start to show through a little bit, and then he delivers a game like that, delivered the game like he did at Georgia Southern or against Georgia Southern as well. It shows you what kind of player he is. After the Bobcats scored there, South Alabama scored again. DJ Thomas Jones, he did have 3 touchdowns because I'm looking at it. That's a 3rd touchdown for him. They put together a 15-play drive that made it a 1-score game. Then the Bobcats, they put him away thanks to one big play. I mentioned earlier before the Cole Wilson one, there's 2 plays that I think were the 2 of the best of the season. The other one was Connor Fox's. It wasn't a touchdown, but it was a 41-yard catch that got the Bobcats on the 1-yard line. A 50-50 ball. We hadn't seen them drop a route like this for a tight end, feel like all season, feel like in a long time. And that was, it wasn't the best thrown ball. It was a little underthrown, which is funny to say because he had to jump, but really had to kind of jump to more so get it away from the defender. And it was such a great grab. And we did the recap. We do our recaps after specifically the home games. Go check that out. YouTube, Win Now or Get Bent. check out our channel. Make sure you subscribe, all that good stuff. But in there, I do a little narrating on the recap, talking about that Connor Fox play. And I said the most surprising play of the night. And I got pushback from the, I won't say who specifically, but from the Connor Fox contingency, his group over there. They weren't offended, but they just wanted to be like, hey, you don't have to be surprised. This guy, he's got it. Go look at his high school tape. Go look at what he can do. Don't worry about that Kansas State stuff where they had him blocking. This guy can catch passes. And it's funny because shout out to the Foxes and shout out to Connor Fox and the people supporting him, because there was when he first came in, he transferred. I was seemed like he was more of a blocking tight end at Kansas State, and I had pushed back then too, being like, no way, this guy, he's a pass catcher. He's one of the best pass catchers you'll ever see at the tight end position, and he showed it there. He had a touchdown the other day too. That was great to see, and they're absolutely right. The guy can catch passes. Throw him more passes. I'm a huge proponent. If you're listening to this, the Fox clan, anybody on his side, I'm a huge proponent of tight ends. They need to throw the ball at tight ends more, specifically Connor Fox, after seeing that one. But yeah, so that one set up a Mahdi touchdown, 52-36. South Alabama got in there again, 52-44. I think at the beginning of the pod, now that I'm reading the score, I think I said 52-36. It's 52-44. It's mixing it up with that Southern Miss score, 50-36. It's hard to keep all these 50-point games. It's hard to keep track of them all three of them. Three of them. I'm acting like that's a big deal. It's a big deal over here. It's a big deal in San Marcos, 3 50-point games in a season. It was terrific. It was a great game. Led the whole game, like I said. No Joey Hobart. Ashton Hawkins was terrific. Mahdi ended the season averaging 100 yards a game. He ended the season with 2014 all-purpose yards, which leads the nation. Over 1,200 yards, 1,209 yards, I believe, is what he ended with. It's the first time since 1997 the Bobcats have had a player surpass 1,200 yards. And that was Claude Mathis. Did I write down what 1595. That's the record for Claude Mathis. 5 yards away from 1,600. That's the single season rushing record. First time since 2012, the Bobcats scored in all three phases of the game. Because I didn't even mention the Cole Wilson run back, did I? Talking about all the scores for the Bobcats. There was that too. Cole Wilson had a 100-yard run back. Even when you look at the tape, it looks like 102 yards, if I'm being honest. But in the box score, it's 100. So they scored in all three phases for the first time since 2012. Incredible game, incredible stuff. Let's look at their season. This offense, it ended the season as the top offense in the Sun Belt. I'm pulling that up now because I want to see where they lined up with the rest of them before I get into the offensive notes that I have right here. See where these Bobcats stacked up. Yeah, number one scoring offense in the Sun Belt, 36 points per game scoring. Total yards, number one, 471.8 yards per game total. Number one rushing offense in the conference, 190.9 yards per game. Number three passing offense, 280 yards per game. So they finished on top of the Sun Belt in those categories. And, that's not anything that wasn't anything that was too surprising it felt like they led it through the whole season. Not too surprising. Once we got into the season, we saw this offense. It felt like they were going to end there. What did surprise me was the defense leading the nation in tackles for a loss with 102. Now, there is a little bit of a caveat to that because James Madison finished with 109, which would have led the nation. But their stats don't count because they're transitioning from FCS to FBS. Hey, we don't always side with the NCAA here at Win Now or Get Bent at this podcast, but on this specific statistic, this one here, we're going to have to side with the NCAA. Rules are rules. The Bobcats finished with more tackles for a loss. You go on the NCAA website, boom, Texas State. There they are, number one. I tweeted it out. There are plenty of Dukes not happy about it. They were like, oh, excuse me, there's 109. I didn't tweet a correction. No way. I'm not doing it. I'm siding with the NCAA here. What are you going to do about it? Nothing you can do about it. This is my podcast. But shout out to the defense for those TFLs. I'll talk more about the defense. I'm going to talk about Brian Holloway specifically. Terrific season for him. Not necessarily came out of nowhere, but surprising what he was able to do, especially with this new staff. And he was a recruit under Zach Spavital, previous defense coordinator. But some offensive notes for this season for the Bobcats. New FBS records in points first season with 432 and yards with 5,661. Those are FBS records. This is an overall record, FBS, FCS, whenever. Overall attendance for the season, 127,102. That means 127,000 people showed up to Bobcat Stadium this fall to watch Texas State football. It's over 20% increase from last season, which is top 10 in the nation as far as increase from year to year. That one impresses me more than any of these other offensive stats. Leads the Sun Belt in whatever, leads the nation in tackles for a loss. That right there is indicative of what this program can be more than any of these other stats, because that shows that this team, when it's competent, when it comes out, and it doesn't have to be the best. It doesn't have to be the best. When it comes out and it has it has pride and it has a respectable, a winning record, aiming for a winning record, people will show up. Imagine if this was an undefeated team or a double-digit win team. Those numbers would be even higher than that. But this shows that the foundation is there. What we've been talking about for so long, it's there. And they just need a little glimmer of hope after 8 years of being in the dump, being at the bottom of the Sun Belt. Get a little bit of glimmer of hope, and that's the production you get. Because I'll tell you what, that number is higher than a lot of these other Sun Belt teams that have been doing it for a while. I guarantee you it's higher than Louisiana's. It's higher than Coastal's. And those are programs that have won the Sun Belt before. Has Coastal won the Sun Belt? I think they played in the Sun Belt Championship. I can't remember if they've actually won it. But the point still stands. This is a program, as far as anybody else was concerned, had no reason putting up those numbers this season. I knew that could happen. You knew that could happen because you've been paying attention to this place. And it's nice when you have a respectable team, people notice it as well. You're going to talk about these things and point out these things. Look at the attendance increase. This has been a great season to build on from a lot of aspects of it. Of course, on the field, from a coaching perspective, recruiting perspective, all of that. But as far as fan base and game day experience and having people actually show up to the game, and that brings profit, brings money. People need funds to support this program. And the more people that come to your games and show up, the more money you get. This is big. So that one, I'm more impressed with the attendance increase than any of the points increase or any of the other stuff I'm about to read. But that didn't take away from any of it because it's all still pretty great, especially this next one. TJ Finley, single season passing leader at Texas State. The new record is 3,287 yards. He also finished with 24 touchdowns and 8 interceptions. Set a school record with 5 300-yard games. Passed Barrick Neely to get that record. That was pretty cool of Barrick Neely. He tweeted, "Welcome to the 3,000 club to TJ Finley," because it's only Barrick Neely. He did it in 2003 with 3,129 yards. And Bradley George in 2009, I was there for that one, 3,121 yards. I forgot how close George and Neely's numbers were. 3,129 was the previous record, and George got 3,121, 8 yards away. Couldn't leave him in there to get that, just a couple more passes to pass it. But, it is what it is. But the new record, 3,287. So TJ Finley, first quarterback over 3,200 yards for the Bobcats. I mentioned it earlier, Mahdi leading the nation in all-purpose yards, first back over 1,200 since Claude Mathis, 10 rushing touchdowns this season, 1 receiving, 1 kickoff return, remember that, 6.1 yards per carry on 199 carries. Gosh, that game when he had the kick return, remember that play where Finley is getting sacked, by the goal line. Seemed like it's going to be an awful play. Somehow slips that ball out to Mahdi. Mahdi takes it 89 yards all the way to the house, almost to the house. That defender knocked the ball out, fumble, touchback, turnover. He almost had a game where he had a receiving, a rushing, and a kickoff return touchdown. Would have been incredible. Still an incredible season, though. He finished with 6.1 yards per carry on 199 carries, played all 12 games. Broke that wrist. Remember, he wore the club cast for a while. Still played through that. Caught a pass, one-handed, wearing a club on the other hand. Just a surprising season from a lot of aspects of this team. Mahdi is by far the most surprising. Although there were people in his corner hinting when he came here, and they were like, that guy, I'm telling you, that guy, that's the guy in this class. I didn't fully listen. I saw it when I saw it. But I needed to see it to believe it, especially when you're looking at in fall camp. You're thinking of, maybe not fall camp, we weren't thinking about Perry, but over summer, you're thinking Perry, Calvin Hill, Jeter's coming back. It was like, well, it's going to be pretty hard for this guy to break through, and boy, did he break through that. Be fun next year. I mentioned Perry and Josh Berry. I don't know if I said Josh Berry already, but they'll both be back. Two guys are out for the season with injuries. Should be deep at running back. Joey Hobart set the FBS record for receiving yards in a season, 847. He passed Elijah King, who had 750 yards receiving in 2017. Shout out to Elijah King. I love hearing these old names of players from the last 10 years. I'm like, oh yeah, Elijah. Good guy. Joey Hobart played in 10 games, missed 2, including the last one, still leading the team with 71 catches, tied for the team lead in touchdowns with 8 receiving touchdowns, I should say. In 10 games. That's crazy. So if he had played those 2 games that he missed, if he had played all 12 games, the Bobcats could very well have a 3,000-yard passer with TJ Finley, a 1,200-yard rusher with Ishmael Mahdi, and a 1,000-yard receiver with Joey Hobart. So he played those last 2 games. I like to think he would have combined for 153 or more yards in those last 2 and gotten over 1,000. And that would have been the first time a receiver over 1,000 in the FBS. I don't remember the last time somebody was over 1,000. Maybe Cam Luke. Did Cam Luke go over 1,000 when he was here? DeMarcus Griggs, maybe? I'd have to go back and look. I wish I knew that one. You know what? Here, bear with me, because I actually have... I'm going to look at this thing and see if it has it. This is from the Media Relations Department. It's like a list of previous records. Let's see if they have last 1,000-yard receiver, because a lot of this is like last fumble return for a touchdown, last interception return for a touchdown. Doesn't look like it. They don't have that one. Last 1,000-yard receiver for the Bobcats. Nope, I don't have that. Don't have it. But one of you look it up when you're listening to this pod. Of course, I'm going to look it up as soon as I'm done here. I'm not going to take the time. I've already done enough talking about this one stat. But you can look it up and add it to the comments. Maybe on YouTube. Get those YouTube comments going. That'd be helpful. But Ashton Hawkins, he also broke that record. So now 1 and 2 FBS receiving yards is Joey Hobart 847 and Ashton Hawkins at 819 yards. Because remember that previous record was 750 yards. Hawkins, he led the team in receptions with 56 last year. He was third on the team this year with 52. Also had 3 touchdowns there. He is the FBS leader in receptions for the Bobcats with 138 now for his career. 15.8 yards per catch this season for Ashton Hawkins. That's a big increase for him. Last year, it was a lot of, and he was having to play. He was their everyman at receiver. He was doing whatever they needed, and that included a lot of the short mediary routes. And, who the Lane Hatcher at quarterback wasn't necessarily throwing it that deep that much. So his yards per catch weren't that high. This year, I mean, it's I think that's 6 yards more than it was last year. So 15.8 yards per catch really showed that he's a deep threat. He's a guy, he's a catch and run threat. He's a terrific receiver, and he'll be back next year. Cole Wilson, 61 catches for 697 yards and 8 touchdowns. That was tied for the team lead, the 8 touchdowns. That one surprised me. I knew he had a high volume of catches with 61. The 697 yards receiving, almost 700 yards receiving from Cole Wilson as well. That's 2,363 yards combined between those 3 receivers. That's a lot of yards. And there was a time during this season where when I was looking at these receivers, and I was thinking, I think I even said it on the pod, you spread it out more. It seemed like, when you look at these offenses, when they were at the offense they were at Incarnate Word, everybody was getting the ball. It was like 12 guys leaving in the box score with receptions, and it wasn't happening as much this year. And then when you look at the end stats, you're like, oh, it's because 3 guys were getting the bulk. And I mean, that's spread pretty good amongst those 3 guys. You'd like to see it spread out more, and I think injuries and other circumstantial situations with that prevented that. But that's impressive for those 3 guys. And those are 3 guys that'll be back next year too. Barring transfer portal shenanigans. We shall see. Defensive notes, I mentioned that TFL's 102, lead the nation. Don't ask JMU about it. Bobcats lead the nation. Jordan Revels in his senior day set the career tackles TFL's record at Texas State with 30. So he had 30 for his whole career. Brian Holloway set the FBS season record with 16. Fred Evans had 18 back in 2005. So it's not the full record. But Brian Holloway, 97 tackles total for him. SMU transfer. He started out at Kilgore Community College, transferred to SMU, didn't play a whole lot, transferred to Texas State, got in the rotation a little bit last year, but he was behind guys like Sione Tupou and London Harris. Pretty hard for him to break through that interior linebacker spot. This year, it's a new staff with Pat Key coming in and Kenny as the head coach. And he's one of the few guys that stayed. There's even a pretty funny anecdote that GJ Kinney has told a few different times where Brian Holloway wanted a single-digit number when the coaches first got here, and they're like, oh, yeah, sure, maybe, we'll see. And then spring football happened. They saw what he was flying around all over the place and making all these plays, and they were like, you can have whatever number you want. And so he got to choose number 0. I love that. I think the 0 looks real hard, especially at that middle linebacker spot. When he would have the visor too, it felt like that would look cool. But he emerged out of nowhere after not necessarily. It wasn't anything that. It wasn't because he didn't have the ability. It was more so the opportunity at his other spots. He had it at Kilgore, obviously, but SMU, and then last year, just the opportunity wasn't there. This year, he got it and was incredible. It's terrific. I think he's a guy who's got a chance at the NFL, at least at the XFL, USFL. I mean, he's got a chance to play at the next level. He showed that. I mean, he did it at all phases defensively. He got that interception on defense. He could rush the passer, stop the run. He could play in coverage. He can break off blocks. He did a terrific job this season. Was all over the place. It just felt like any time there was a tackle, number 0 was in the vicinity. Even if he wasn't making the tackle, he was near the play. It was around the play. Just a great nose for the ball. So shout out to Brian Holloway. Led the team in podium appearances too. More press conferences for that guy than anybody else. Did a great job. Not complaining, but he got a lot of podium attention. It was senior day, as I mentioned. Brian Holloway, one of those seniors. 18 seniors are going to be gone. There's 21 on the roster. Only 18 are done with their eligibility. We'll go through those seniors. On offense, we have offensive lineman Caleb Johnson, offensive lineman Bray Walker, offensive lineman Jaden Smith, receivers Bo Corrales and Julian Ortega-Jones, tight end receiver Sean Shaw, running back Calvin Hill, another running back Jamil Jeter. On defense, Brian Holloway at linebacker, Jordan Revels at defensive end, Chance Main at defensive end, Sam Latham at defensive end, Victor Obi at defensive end. Are you hearing a need there at all? Caleb Ford Dement at corner, Sean Holton at safety, John Blunt Jr. at corner, and Seamus O'Kelly at punter. Not a completely depleting senior class. Some key guys in there for sure. More so on defense than offense, although on offense, losing guys like Caleb Johnson, Bray Walker, 2 starting offensive linemen, that's going to be pretty tough. Caleb Johnson starting at center, and Bray Walker at guard. I actually think both of those guys have a chance to also play at the next level. I don't know who will get drafted. When I really look at this roster, it's hard for me to be like, that guy's going to get drafted, because nobody's been drafted here since 2015. It's been a long time. And so I think a lot of times they overlook Texas State athletes as like, oh, well, if we want them, we can give them a training camp tryout, an undrafted free agency deal. So it's hard for me to say, like, I think this guy will get drafted. When I look at someone like Caleb Johnson and you see his size, Bray Walker too. Caleb Johnson 6'6", 340. Bray Walker 6'7", 355. Based on their sizes alone, they're gonna get brought into camp somewhere for sure. So I'm pretty confident with that. Don't know if they'll be drafted. But the offensive guys, those are the two guys that I see playing at the next level. I think Beau Corrales could as well. He's been injury prone his whole career, but man, that is one hell of an athlete. 6'4", I think he was right below like Cole Wilson for the team lead in vertical at 6'4". Big guy, strong guy. You saw them. They were wanting to do some stuff with him at the goal line. They were giving him some shots for a little while, and they kind of went away from that. But he's somebody who I think that they should, someone at the next level should at least kick the tires on. Because, I mean, the only knock on Beau Corrales is injury prone. And this year, I feel like maybe he started the season injured, and then I just feel like he didn't get a fair shake towards the second half of the season. It's not a knock on the coaches or the scheme or whatever. As things were rolling, and the chemistry wasn't there. It was out of the rotation. But I still think that's a terrific athlete. Wish more would have been made of his one season here for sure. Defense, this is where the losing a lot of really good players, more so than on offense. And now Julian Ortega-Jones, I'm not taking away from any of those players on offense. Calvin Hill has been the team leader in rushing yards before here. Jamil Jeter's done a lot of good things. But the biggest losses, at least as far as starters, are going to be on defense. Brian Holloway, Jordan Revels, it's a huge one. Chance Main, we only got to know you for such a little bit of time. Same with Sam Latham and Victor Obi. It's 3 defensive ends that got here 1 year, gone. We didn't get to see much of Victor Obi at all. Caleb Ford Dement, 1 year gone. Sean Holton, 1 year gone. John Blunt Jr., 1 year gone. So they're going to have some making up to do. And that's at linebacker, that's the defensive line, and that's at DB. So defense. As far as recruiting, need to go get some guys there. Transfer portal opens up December 4th. We'll have a month to go get some guys. And that's why, even though I just listed 18 guys that are for sure gone, there's undoubtedly going to be more. There's more guys that are going to enter the portal. Maybe not as much as we've seen in years past, more the last couple years specifically, where it did get into double digits each of the last 2 years. I don't know if it'll get into double digits this year, but we shall see. We will find out. We've talked a lot about departures. Let's talk about returners. People who are returning. Basically, the whole offense is coming back, and I mentioned it. Caleb Johnson, Bray Walker, those are the 2 big losses. TJ Finley, we'll see. Is he coming back? I don't know. Is he going to go pro? Is he going to transfer out? He's a grad student. We'll see. A lot of questions for TJ Finley. I'll say this. No matter what happens with TJ Finley, he came in here late in July, set program records, got this team a winning record, first time in 9 years. Whatever decision he makes, I'm going to be okay with. The guy just had twins. He has a college degree. If he decides, hey, it's time to go get paid, time to go get money, whether that means more money at a P5 or more money at the pro level, I'm going to respect it. And I'm going to remember the 2023 TJ Finley season for the rest of my life. It was incredible. It was terrific. It was full of, it had its down moments, no doubt. The pick sixes, the Coastal Carolina game where he had like 83 yards. But I mean, even that, he had a game that bad against Coastal and still finished with 3,287 yards. But yeah, that's the biggest question mark on the offense for the returners. TJ Finley. Now you may remember he's a sophomore. He's a part of the COVID class 2020. So his first year didn't count at all. Not a red shirt or anything, just didn't count. Then he got a red shirt, and then he played another season. And then this season. So technically this was just his second season of eligibility expunged. So he's got 2 more years. It'll be interesting to to see what he does with that. And I think a lot of that will play into what the next guy does, Malik Hornsby, because he's due back as well. He's a junior this year, played more than 4 games, so he will be a senior next year. Will he come back? I don't think he can transfer out because of the one transfer rule. That doesn't apply to TJ Finley because TJ Finley is a grad transfer. The transfer restrictions don't apply to you at all. You can go wherever you want. But Malik Hornsby isn't. He is a junior, true junior, not a redshirt junior or anything. So he might have to stay here. Also returning Ishmael Mahdi, although I will say another guy transferred from FCS, so I don't think there's a transfer restriction on him as well. So whatever NIL deals are in the background cooking, maybe you get Mahdi in the mix. Let's go. I'll buy a shirt. Show me the Ishmael Mahdi shirt. Let's go. I'll promote him for free on the pod. Shout out to Ishmael Mahdi. Terrific season. Joey Hobart back. Ashton Hawkins back. Cole Wilson back. Nash Jones back. That one will be interesting to keep an eye on as well. Not for transfer purposes, but I think he's somebody where if he went to a pro day, he could really catch some eyes and might want to go pro. But I don't know. Maybe with the injury and everything, he'll also want to come back. This speculation, a lot of speculation right now with talking with who's going to be in the portal and who's not. I don't know much of anything. Connor Fox back. Excited for him to be back. Trenton Scott back. Shout out to Trenton Scott. It's great to see him really get that experience this season. He came in, a plethora of transfers on the offensive line. And the guy who came in here as a freshman 3 years ago won the job and played the whole season. So shout out to Trenton Scott. Valuable experience he gained this year. Dorian Strawn back. Those are just starters I was naming. Here's some key non-starters. Denario Davenport really looked terrific the last few games. He had some fumble issues in the middle of the season, but he seemed like he did away with those. Well, he did have a fumble against Arkansas State, now that I think about it. He's got to watch that. But otherwise, terrific athlete, awesome player. Lincoln Perry, injured over summer, tore his ACL. He'll be back. It's great to see how much he's in the mix, going to like some of the coaching shows, and when they had that block party towards the beginning of the season, he was there talking to the crowd on a microphone. So it's good to see how much in the mix Lincoln Perry is. Still very much a Bobcat. Josh Berry, so that's 3 running backs that'll be back right there, along with Mahdi. Shadid Ahmed, didn't get to see him at all. He may have a red shirt. He was one of those guys where I thought he might have been in the senior day ceremony, wasn't, which tells me he's probably getting a red shirt because he didn't play at all this season. It's a receiver. Transferred in from Marshall. Did I mention Dan Foster on defense as well? Another Marshall transfer. He'll be back. I meant to mention him when I was saying good things about the defense. Let's see. Where was I? Marcus Alexander, Oklahoma transfer on the offensive line, the guard position. He'll be back. Well, that'll be needed with Bray Walker being gone. Danny Valenzuela, he'll be back. Center position. Bami Badusi, Justin DeLeon, 2 freshman offensive linemen. They'll be back. Bami Badusi specifically got a lot of really good marks in fall camp. Alex Harkey, who's the Colorado transfer, he'll be back. The Abibo brothers will be back. So the offensive line looking really good. Despite me talking about Caleb Johnson, Bray Walker, they're getting a lot of these other guys back. Couple of receivers we didn't see a lot of. Drew Donnelly we saw a little bit of. Langston Anderson we didn't see much of at all. Langston Anderson, he's the Oklahoma State transfer. Drew Donnelly's the Cincinnati transfer, allegedly the fastest guy on the team. They'll all be back, barring transfer portal entries. And keep in mind, if you're wondering, well, that guy didn't play a lot, are they going to be in the portal? If they transferred in, they're probably not transferring again because of the one transfer rule, unless they want to go down to FCS. Then that transfer restrictions doesn't apply to them. But that was offense. That was offense returners. Lots coming back on offense. Lots to be excited about. Obviously, lots of question marks around quarterback. I think that's going to be a fluid situation, something to keep an eye on. Nothing I know, anything concrete. Defense, though, guys who are coming back. Lots on the interior defensive line. We talked about some of these defensive ends that are gone. Chance Main, Jordan Revels. But a lot of these interior defensive linemen are coming back. Tavian Coleman, Dominic Ratcliffe, Terry Webb, Christian Rory, Myron Warren. All 5 of those guys I felt played really well this season, and all are coming back. And that's great because interior linemen are hard to find when they're trying to do the 4 down front like they do. Those interior linemen are specifically hard to find. You got Josh Eaton at corner. I think he's got some. They said he was going to play some receiver, and he didn't. I was waiting for him to jump in at receiver sometimes this season, but that guy's got a lot of dog, and I'm excited to see him back next year. Chris Mills back, Dan Foster back, Ben Bell back, Caleb Colt back, Devin Wright, that defensive end, back. Jalazen Landry, true freshman. We saw him a little bit at the beginning of the year. I think they shut him down for redshirt purposes, but number 6 on defense was playing the first few games. That'll be another fun defensive end. Kenny Haynes at linebacker. I can't believe he's coming back, but he's back. Bobby Crosby at safety. Darius Jackson, who's injured all season at safety. That's going to be a big addition when they needed help at DB, and then Sean Holton leaving. Going to need all hands on deck at safety. So that's why also Torrey Spears coming back. That definitely helps as well, which is great. He was supposed to be a senior, but I guess he's back. Medical redshirt or something happened there, but that's exciting. Good to see. For this recruiting class right now, they have 14 commits. All of them are high school prospects. They obviously they need DBs, so they have 3 of them. 3 committed with Frederick Doty, Tice Williams, Chris Jones. 3 receivers committed with Jordan Martin, Kylan Evans, and Junior Thornton. 2 defensive linemen with Priest Ash and Jeremy Jackson. 2 offensive linemen with Tyler Norris and Brock Riker. 2 linebackers with Lakel McCowan and Michael Silvali. And 1 tight end with Derek Osmond, and 1 quarterback with Brad Jackson. Even though they have 3 DBs, need some more DBs there. I think that's something they know when you see how they recruit. But like I said, that portal's going to open up, and we're going to see a lot of traction going for the Bobcats. Seems like they're going to be heading after a lot of these transfers. Bowl games, from what I'm hearing, Frisco seems like the likeliest destination. It seems like from people I'm talking to on the inside of the whole situation, it seems like that is the one they are communicating the most with. It's the one that has been the most interested in the Bobcats all season. So prepare yourselves for Frisco. I know that's great for traveling and everything. I know NOLA's in the mix a little bit as well. Apparently there are some people over there that have some ins with Texas State that are really pushing for that. But it's either option. I like those options for sure. I know Orlando was on the table at some point before the last game of the season. I don't know if that's still in the mix, but that's a little too far. I think we'd all like it a little closer in the South. I can't wait to cover a bowl game, though. I can't wait to have podcasts previewing a bowl game. It's going to be a couple weeks. It'll probably be like at least the mid-December and on. There's also that First Responders Bowl in Dallas. I haven't heard any traction. I've just seen that bowl is there, December 26th. So it could even be as far away as that, but that is exciting. And also a lot of shakeup in the coaching world. We saw Texas A&M has their coach. Houston is interviewing Jeff Traylor now after Texas A&M got Elko. Houston's kicking the tires on UTSA's coach. The ripple effect. Texas State isn't officially safe yet. It's not done. Even though a lot of these coaches are getting jobs, I know G.J. Kinney's name was in the mix for Mississippi State. They have their man over there. Things are starting to settle a little bit, but I'll say if Traylor leaves UTSA again, that creates a little bit of an alert for the Bobcats. But I will say this, and I kind of hinted at it on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, that I have some news that I think Bobcats will enjoy, and that's that I've been reassured that restructuring G.J. Kinney's contract was always in the plan. And especially if they were successful, and they were, and I'll just say this: there's confidence from people I've talked to, which makes me confident. So we'll see how it all shakes out. We'll see how it all goes. We all know college football. You can't speculate. You can't predict it too much. You can speculate. I love speculating it, but you can't predict it every single time. It's a wacky sport. It's unpredictable. I mean, Bobby Petrino's back at Arkansas. What's going on here? I don't know. That's why it's the best sport in the world. I will put it up against any other sport that you have as far as entertainment value and pageantry and drama and passion. It is pound for pound the best sport on the planet, college football. And I can't wait to cover a bowl. First time covering a bowl. I've been to some bowl games. I went to the Alamo Bowl 2013. I saw Texas won. That was Mac Brown's last game at Texas. I got to see that one. Been to like the Fort Worth Bowl when I was in high school. It was when it was cheap tickets, you know. TCU was always in it. It was before they were the big dogs they are now. This was back 2003 TCU, where they weren't even getting half the crowd at a bowl game in Fort Worth. But this will be my first one professionally covering a bowl game, so I'm very excited for that. I was excited to actually get to have a byline for the last game as well. I know I talked about the Statesman, them discontinuing their Texas State coverage. Shout out to the San Antonio Express News. They let me cover the Bobcats a little bit, maybe even a little bit more. We'll see how it goes. Austin pulls out of this market. There's another one waiting right there. That's a cool thing about San Marcos. It's nestled right in between two pretty big markets. So able to still get that. It was nice to have a byline for that last game, that 7th win, to be able to type up all those records, this offense that they did, and to have that in an article was nice. It was good. It's a good way to end this regular season and head into the postseason. But all right, wow, yeah, I've been talking for a long time. I had some more of those questions from the last mailbag I was going to get to. I'm going to push them off again. I never mean to get to an hour, but this season I get to talking about these cats and I can't shut up. Check out our Patreon page, patreon.com/WinNowOrGetBent. Check out our merch website, WNOGB.com. You can get a cool shirt like this sicko shirt I'm wearing. If you're looking on our YouTube channel, Win Now or Get Bent on YouTube, make sure you subscribe. You can see me in my cool sicko shirt. Bang, you can go get you one of those. You can get you a sicko sweater, get you lots of gear, get you a sicko mug. Love those mugs. Those mugs are popular. I'm surprised. I'm not too surprised. I love a good mug myself, but I didn't anticipate y'all being mug heads as well. Again, subscribe, rate, comment on the YouTube channel, Win Now or Get Bent on YouTube. Do the same on our audio channels, Apple, Spotify. Check us out on Twitter at Win Now or Get Bent. Check us out on Instagram at WNOGB. Thank you to TGC, Balcones Roofing and Remodeling, Thaddeus Watkins and Edward Jones, and Austin Patchmaster for sponsoring the pod. Thank you to the Wizard, Zachary Webb. Go check out his recap on the YouTube channel. It's awesome. Terrific one. What is that? What did we do? We got to do 7 of those this season. It's great. 7 recaps. So go check those out. What a great regular season. Going into the last game, my guy Webb, he was bummed. He's just like, this is the last go at Bobcat Stadium. This is it for this season. And I was like, yeah, it was a really cool season, and it was emotional to watch it end. But it's the first time that it's happened, and you have that, oh man, it's over, sad feeling that you have every football season, but it comes with that, there's a lot happening here, a lot of positivity going on at Win Now or Get Bent too. We got lots of great stuff happening here. We did lots of great things at this pod. The Bobcats did great things on the field. It's been a terrific year, and we'll get to continue it. But it has been a fun year, and it was sad. It was sad to watch it go, that final home game. But it's we got lots more to cover, lots more to pod about. I'm sure they'll give him some field access so he can get another one of those recaps for the bowl game. Talk about that one. Bowl game cinematic recap. Looking forward to that. But shout out to Zach Webb. And of course, thank you to you sickos. This whole thing is nothing without you. Be shouting into the void, sitting in a room, talking by myself if you weren't out there tuning in every week. So I appreciate all of you for hanging in there this whole season, for your unconditional support for me, which sometimes I I'm very humbled. I don't understand where a lot of that came from some of y'all. I see some of y'all bashing the Statesman on Twitter. No need to do that. It's, but thank you. I get it. It's because y'all care about me. But I really appreciate y'all more than words can express. And if somebody uses a lot of words, I feel like that's saying a lot. But thank you, sickos. Truly mean it. Really appreciate y'all. But all right, we'll get more pods going. We're going to have guests. I've got guests in the works, talking to some really cool guests. One in particular that I put off all season. Some of you might know who it is. They will be on the pod soon, so look out for that. Lots of guests. It's harder to get guests during the season because people I want to interview, they're kind of busy with the season, So we'll get to talk to a lot of them. But all righty, sickos. Thanks for tuning in. Win now or get bent.